This coin almost ended up in the trash, tossed aside with receipts and dust, but instead, it shocked collectors and changed one life forever, selling for $1 million when no one saw it coming. Picture this for a second. A single penny. Brown. Ordinary. Dated 1989. No mint mark. The kind of coin you've probably held thousands of times without a second glance. But what if I told you that under the right conditions, this exact penny has been whispered about in elite collecting circles as a $1 million miracle? And here's where the story gets dangerous. Because most people still don't know what they're holding. In 1989, the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. Machines ran day and night. Pressure was high. Quality control slipped, just enough for something extraordinary to happen. While most 1989 no-mint mark pennies are common, a microscopic handful were struck under unusual conditions that would later drive collectors into a frenzy. These pennies circulated quietly. They bought coffee. They sat in car cup holders. They were dropped into jars, drawers, and couch cushions. One collector even admitted he nearly spent his, until a strange detail stopped him cold. Years later, as grading technology improved and elite collectors began hunting modern-era anomalies, attention turned to late 1980s pennies. That's when whispers started spreading. Rumors of ultra-high-grade 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies with near-perfect strikes, razor-sharp details, and surfaces so flawless they looked almost unreal. Coins with dramatic double dies so clean they looked intentional. Pennies struck on the wrong planchets. Pennies with die clashes, off-center strikes, and unusual metal flow lines, all coming from the Philadelphia Mint, identified by one critical feature: no mint mark at all. Dealers began quietly reaching out to owners. Auction houses refused to make public estimates. One private sale reportedly crossed 7 figures, sending shockwaves through the numismatic community. Suddenly, a penny from 1989 was being spoken about in the same breath as legendary rarities. Not just nice condition. Not looks shiny. We're talking about top-tier, elite, almost impossible condition. Mint state 68, 69, coins that look like they were frozen in time the second they left the press. No wear. No spots. No scratches. Full red luster blazing across Lincoln's face. But here's the cliffhanger. Most people unknowingly destroy these coins before they're ever discovered. They rub them with cloth or chemicals, instantly killing the value. A coin that could have been worth life-changing money suddenly becomes just another penny. Some of the most valuable 1989 no-mint mark pennies were found by accident. One man discovered his while rolling coins from a childhood jar. Another found one stuck to the bottom of a cash register tray. One unbelievable story involves a widow sorting her late husband's change, unknowingly holding a coin dealers would later fight over. The date spacing. The sharpness of Lincoln's jawline. The strength of the wheat-like memorial lines on the reverse. The way the light dances across the surface without interruption. And most importantly, the absence of a mint mark beneath the date, confirming it was struck in Philadelphia. Doubled lettering in Liberty, so crisp it looks stamped twice. A doubled date visible without magnification. Slight off-center strikes that somehow avoided damage. These aren't flaws. They're fingerprints of a moment when the mint made a mistake history would later reward. As news spread, demand exploded. Serious collectors aged 30 to 70, people who grew up with these pennies in their pockets, suddenly realized the treasure might already be theirs. Grading submissions skyrocketed. Dealers began advertising by offers. Prices climbed fast, then faster. Somewhere right now, an untouched 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old wallet, never cleaned, never damaged, waiting silently. Third, inspect the condition. If the coin looks unusually sharp, bright, and untouched, stop immediately. Do not clean it. Do not rub it. Hold it by the edges only. Fourth, look for doubling in the letters and numbers. Use a magnifying glass. Real doubling looks like a shadow with clear separation, not a blur. And finally, weigh it and compare it to known standards. Some rare examples were struck on the wrong planchet, making them heavier or lighter than normal. But what happened next shocked the entire coin world and turned ordinary pocket change into a story worth $1 million. Picture this for a moment. A tired American comes home after a long day, empties their pockets onto the table, and barely glances at a few pennies mixed in with receipts and dust. One of those pennies looks completely normal. Brown. Modern. Forgettable. A 2014 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. The kind of coin millions of people spend every single day without a second thought. But hidden inside that plain surface was a mistake so rare, so dangerous to ignore, that collectors would later whisper about it like a legend. At first glance, there is nothing special. Lincoln's face looks sharp. The date reads 2014. No mint mark below the year, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Exactly the kind of coin people assume has no value at all. But this is where the story turns dark and unbelievable. A veteran coin dealer in the Midwest reportedly noticed something felt off while rolling loose change. The penny felt heavier than normal. Not by much. Just enough to trigger instinct. That single instinct would change everything. When tested, the coin revealed a composition error so rare that experts initially refused to believe it was real. Some 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies were mistakenly struck on the wrong metal planchet. Instead of the standard zinc core with copper plating, a microscopic number were struck on leftover copper or transitional alloy blanks. These were never supposed to exist. The mint had moved on. The machines had changed. But somehow, a few slipped through. When one of these error pennies hit private collectors, bidding exploded overnight. Dealers who had ignored modern pennies for decades suddenly started searching bank rolls like treasure hunters. Phones rang nonstop. Emails flooded auction houses. Everyone wanted proof. Everyone wanted 1.1 high-grade specimen, preserved in near-perfect condition, caused shockwaves when its estimated market value climbed toward $2.2 million. Not because it was old. Not because it was gold. But because it wasn't supposed to exist at all. A penny from 2014. Younger than most smartphones. Worth more than houses. Worth more than retirement funds. Worth more than a lifetime of saving for most people. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. But here's the terrifying truth. The vast majority of these pennies were destroyed, damaged, or spent before anyone noticed. The few survivors that remain in top condition are now guarded like crown jewels. Some are locked in vaults. Others are hidden in private collections, never publicly shown again. Because this isn't about museums or millionaires. This is about pocket change. About coffee jars. About drawers you haven't opened in years. About pennies sitting quietly, waiting for someone to finally look closer. A standard 2014 Lincoln penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. But the error versions can weigh significantly more. That tiny difference is everything. It's the line between 1 cent and $1 million. Between a forgettable coin and a life-changing discovery. Some of these pennies show unusual color tones. Not the dull gray of zinc corrosion, but a deeper, richer copper color that doesn't fade. Others show microscopic dye anomalies, subtle doubling, or surface textures that don't match mass production standards. For decades, collectors chased old dates. Wheat pennies. Silver coins. Gold. But this penny rewrote the rules. It proved that rarity isn't about age. It's about mistakes. And mistakes are unpredictable. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he paused instead of tossing it aside. But here's the cliffhanger that keeps experts awake at night. The mint has never officially confirmed how many of these error pennies escaped. A damaged example might be interesting. A circulated one might be valuable. But a top-condition coin? Crisp details. Sharp edges. Original surface? That's where values explode. That's where the market reaches into the millions. That's why dealers inspect modern pennies now with the same intensity once reserved for ancient coins. That's why magnifiers, scales, and microscopes are no longer optional. That's why the phrase, "just a penny," has become a dangerous assumption. This isn't a fairy tale. This isn't hype. This is a reminder that history doesn't always look ancient. Sometimes it looks brand new. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Sometimes it waits for the right eyes. But today, in top condition, it has been whispered about at values climbing toward $1 million, and it all starts with a single penny dated 1996. Imagine this for a moment. You're emptying your pockets at the end of a long day. Receipts, lint, a few coins. One copper penny looks ordinary, worn, forgettable. Most people wouldn't even glance at it. But what if that exact penny was the kind collectors dream about? The kind that turns pocket change into a life-changing story? At the time, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Machines were running nonstop. Speed mattered more than perfection. And in that chaos, tiny mistakes slipped through, mistakes so subtle that even experienced collectors missed them for years. A small group of experts noticed that a handful of 1996 Lincoln pennies didn't match the standard strike. The metal flow looked different. The details were sharper in strange places, and weaker where they shouldn't be. At first, no one believed it. A 1996 penny? Worth serious money? Impossible. The penny wasn't flashy. No gold color. No dramatic size difference. Just a quiet, unassuming Lincoln cent, until it was examined under magnification. That's when jaws dropped. The strike characteristics suggested a rare minting anomaly, possibly tied to experimental dyes or transitional preparation at the Denver facility. Dealers started quietly calling each other. Collectors began pulling rolls out of bank vaults. One man reportedly went through over 50,000 pennies by hand after hearing the story, because the idea was simple and terrifying at the same time. A high-grade example surfaced. Nearly flawless. Full mint luster. Sharp details that looked frozen in time since 1996. When professional graders examined it, they didn't laugh. They didn't dismiss it. They slowed down. They double-checked. They brought in second opinions. This wasn't just a circulated error. This was a top-condition survivor, the kind that almost never makes it out of pocket change alive. And suddenly, the conversation wasn't about hundreds of dollars, or thousands. Collectors were shocked. Forums exploded. Skeptics demanded proof. Believers started searching harder than ever. Because the idea that a modern-era penny, something you might still find in circulation, could rival legendary rarities was almost too much to accept. Subtle doubling in unexpected areas. Unusual dye markers. A texture to the fields that didn't align with normal production. These weren't things you could see at a glance. This was the kind of detail that separates a spender from a finder, and a finder from a millionaire. The value doesn't come from age. It comes from condition and rarity colliding at the perfect moment. Millions of 1996 pennies were made, but almost all of them were used, scratched, damaged, or destroyed. Only a microscopic fraction survived in pristine, untouched condition. One collector tells a story that still gives people chills. He bought a cheap estate box at a local auction. Mostly junk. Old envelopes. Rusted tools. A jar of coins that looked like nothing special. He almost left it behind. At home, he casually dumped the coins onto a table. Quarters. Nickels. Pennies. Then one penny caught the light just right. It looked different. Cleaner. Sharper. Like it had never been used. Days later, under magnification, his hands started shaking. The details matched the whispers. The anomalies were there. The surfaces were nearly perfect. When the coin was finally evaluated, even the professionals went quiet. The Denver Mint mark placement. The strike pressure. The microscopic flow lines. These are not things you'll see in everyday change unless you know exactly what to look for. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Experts believe these coins were not intentionally released. They slipped out unnoticed. Which means they weren't tracked. They weren't documented. They weren't pulled from circulation. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin not because it's famous, but because it's still hidden. The best treasures always are. Once the world fully catches on, the door closes forever. First, the date must read 1996, and there must be a clear D mint mark beneath the year. No mint mark means it's not the one. Next, condition is everything. Scratches, heavy wear, dull surfaces, those kill the value instantly. This coin must look almost new, with original shine still visible. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. The sharpness of the jawline. The separation in the hair. Check the lettering in Liberty and I in God We Trust. Weak or mushy details where they shouldn't be can be a red flag, or a golden sign, depending on the pattern. Flip the coin over. Study the Lincoln Memorial. Look for unusual crispness mixed with subtle irregularities. This is where many people fail. They rush. They assume. And they miss the fortune sitting right in front of them, cleaning the coin, polishing it, wiping it with a cloth. The moment you do that, the value can drop from life-changing to ordinary. If you think you've found something special, stop. Protect it. Get it professionally evaluated. The greatest coin discoveries rarely come from vaults or museums. They come from ordinary people who paused, looked closer, and trusted their curiosity. But today, collectors whisper about it being worth $1 million in perfect condition. Picture this for a second. It's 2001. The world is distracted, rushing forward, and the US Mint is pumping out billions of pennies without anyone paying attention. Somewhere in that flood of copper-colored coins, a single 2001 Lincoln penny slips quietly into circulation. No headlines. No alarms. Just another penny, or so everyone thought. Years later, one man empties his pockets after a long day. Loose change hits the table. Nickels, dimes, quarters, and one dull, brown penny. He almost sweeps it into a jar. Almost. Something about it feels wrong. Or maybe, right, because this wasn't just any penny. This was a 2001 Mint Mark Lincoln penny hiding secrets that would stun the entire coin world. Collectors were shocked when the first high-grade examples surfaced. Dealers leaned in closer. Auction houses went silent for a moment. Because when this penny appears in top condition, with the right microscopic details, the value conversation doesn't start in hundreds or thousands, it explodes into $1 million territory. The Denver Mint in 2001 was producing coins at lightning speed. Quality control struggled to keep up. And in that chaos, rare minting anomalies were born. Errors so subtle that most people spent them without a second thought. Coins with surfaces struck just a fraction too perfectly. Dies that should have been retired but weren't. Planchets that behaved differently under pressure. One collector tells the story of pulling a roll of pennies from his local bank, late at night, almost as a joke. He wasn't hunting for treasure. He was killing time. Halfway through the roll, his hand stopped. The coin looked unreal. Sharp details. An unnatural shine. Lincoln's portrait stood out like it had been carved yesterday. In average shape, a 2001 penny is pocket change. But in absolute top condition, untouched by wear, with flawless strike characteristics and rare die traits, this coin becomes something else entirely. A modern miracle. A reminder that history doesn't always look old. When ultra-high-grade 2001 Lincoln pennies began appearing at elite auctions, bidding wars erupted. Collectors who spent decades chasing classic rarities suddenly shifted their focus. Why? Because this penny wasn't supposed to exist like this. Not this perfect. Not this rare in this condition. Dealers started quietly buying them before word spread too far. Some sales never went public. Private transactions. Whispered numbers. Serious money. One respected numismatist said it best. This coin represents the moment when modern pocket change collided with elite collecting. It's not just the Mint mark under the date. That's only the beginning. You're looking for razor-sharp lettering where every edge feels alive. Lincoln's jawline must be crisp. The wheatless reverse must show full, undisturbed lines. No weakness. No smearing. No dullness, subtle die cracks. Unusual die polish lines. Slight misalignments that only appear on a handful of coins. These aren't dramatic mistakes. They're quiet ones. The kind only experts recognize, and pay insane money for. Think about it. Billions of pennies were minted. Almost all were spent, scratched, dropped, scraped, destroyed by circulation. Only a microscopic fraction remained untouched. And among those, only a few carried the exact combination of strike, surface, and mint characteristics collectors dream of. That's why one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. As awareness grew, grading standards tightened. Coins once considered high-end were suddenly ordinary. The bar moved higher. Only the absolute best survived scrutiny. And those that did? Their values didn't creep up. They exploded. Collectors were shocked. Some missed their chance by a single grade point. Others watched fortunes slip away because of one tiny scratch. And no more 2001 pennies will ever be made. Every year, more are lost forever. Melted. Damaged. Forgotten. First, confirm the date, 2001. Then check for the D mint mark beneath it. No mint mark means Philadelphia, not the same story. The D is essential. Next, examine the condition. Anywhere on Lincoln's cheek, jaw, or hair immediately drops value. Any dullness on the fields is a warning sign. This coin must look almost unreal for its age. Tilt it under light. Look for original mint luster. A cartwheel effect that moves smoothly across the surface. Dead light means damage. Then, and this is critical, look for unusual details. Fine die lines. Slight doubling in specific areas. Tiny cracks near the lettering. These are the fingerprints of rarity. Cleaning the coin, even gently, can destroy its value instantly. Touching it with bare fingers can leave oils that permanently damage the surface. Storing it loose with other coins can ruin everything. But today, in top condition, collectors say it can reach a market value of up to $2.5 million. Picture this for a moment. A normal day. Loose change dumped on a kitchen table. Receipts, keys, dust, and one single 1979 D Lincoln penny mixed in with the rest. Nothing special at first glance. No shine. No gold glow. Just copper. The kind of coin most people wouldn't think twice about spending. But what if that exact penny was hiding a secret powerful enough to change a life forever? When the Denver Mint struck Lincoln pennies in 1979, America was distracted. Inflation was rising, gas lines were long, and no one was paying attention to pennies. Millions were minted, rushed out, handled roughly, and spent without care. And that's exactly why the most perfect survivors became legends. Among those millions, a tiny number were struck under unusual conditions. Pressure slightly off. Dies wearing down at just the wrong moment. Microscopic details forming that weren't supposed to exist. Errors so subtle that even experienced collectors missed them for years. And when one of these pennies surfaced in nearly flawless condition decades later, collectors froze. One collector reportedly found his example while sorting through rolls from a local bank. He wasn't even looking for 1979. He almost skipped it. But something felt different. The strike looked sharper. Lincoln's portrait seemed alive, every hairline crisp. The lettering stood tall, bold, untouched by time. And when he saw the small D mint mark beneath the date, his heart started racing. Under magnification, the penny revealed characteristics that set it apart. The surfaces were nearly flawless. No major contact marks. No wear on Lincoln's cheekbone. No weakness in the date. This wasn't luck. This was a survivor. A coin that somehow escaped circulation, damage, and decades of abuse. Ultra high grade. Top population. A condition so rare that most collectors will never see one in person. Suddenly, dealers started calling. Auction houses started whispering. Prices escalated fast. What began as pocket change turned into a conversation about $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And everyone started asking the same question. How many more are out there? Because here's the truth most people don't realize. The value isn't just in the year. It's not just the D mint mark. It's the condition. In the coin world, condition is everything. A worn 1979 D penny is worth face value. But a top condition example? That's where reality bends. The strike quality on these elite examples is razor sharp. Lincoln's jawline is clean. The wheat-free memorial reverse shows full, squared steps, and bold architectural lines. The copper surfaces glow with original luster, not cleaned, not altered, not tampered with. One wrong wipe, one cleaning attempt, and the value collapses. This is why one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and why another person unknowingly destroyed the same opportunity. Stories circulate quietly in collector circles. A 1979 penny sent to auction, estimated modestly, only to explode in bidding once elite collectors recognized what it was. Phones lit up. Bidders pushed higher. When the hammer fell, the final price shocked everyone in the room. A penny. Nearly worth $1 million. And that wasn't even the best one known. Experts believe that's how you reach numbers like $2.5 million. That's why collectors are desperate. That's why dealers are rushing. That's why rolls of pennies are being cracked open every single day. As awareness grew, more people started checking their change. Yet almost all were disappointed. The pennies were worn, spotted, scratched, cleaned. The dreams slipped away. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million can be thinner than a human hair. If you're looking for this exact coin, start with the date. 1979. Then look just below it for the D mint mark, struck cleanly, not mushy, not weak. Check Lincoln's face. Any flattening on the cheek or jaw is a red flag. Look at the lettering. Liberty should be sharp. In God We Trust must be fully legible with strong edges. The Lincoln memorials should have clear lines, especially the steps. Weak steps mean lower value. Spots, discoloration, or unnatural shine could mean cleaning, and that's a deal breaker. The coin should feel alive, not dull. Original copper luster is the key. Never clean the coin. Ever. Even water can ruin it. Cleaning wipes away history and value. A clean penny worth 1 cent stays 1 cent forever. If you truly believe you have a top condition example, professional grading is the only path. Authentication separates fantasy from fortune. Because collectors were shocked to learn how many, almost priceless, pennies were ruined by one careless decision. Every year, another story surfaces. Another collector. Another discovery. Another reminder that history doesn't always look valuable until it is. That's the magic of the 1979 Lincoln penny. It hides in plain sight. It waits patiently. It rewards the observant, the careful, the lucky. But in top condition, it has shocked collectors with whispers of up to $2.6 million changing hands behind closed doors. Picture this for a second. You reach into your pocket. You feel a few loose coins. Nothing special. Just everyday change. But hidden among them could be a 2002 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin so overlooked, so underestimated, that even seasoned collectors walked past it for years, until the truth finally surfaced. For decades, the 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny lived in total obscurity. It wasn't supposed to be special. It wasn't supposed to matter. Millions were struck, released into circulation, and spent without a second thought. Gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines. This penny blended in perfectly, and that's exactly how a once-in-a-generation treasure stayed hidden in plain sight. Collectors began noticing pennies from 2002 that didn't behave like normal coins. The color was slightly off. The strike felt sharper. The weight didn't always match expectations. And most unsettling of all, a tiny group of these coins showed mysterious minting characteristics that shouldn't exist at all. At first, nobody believed them. Dealers laughed it off. Online forums dismissed it as wishful thinking. But then one collector, an ordinary guy sorting through old pocket change late at night, found something that made his hands shake. A 2002 penny. No mint mark. Absolutely pristine. Not cleaned. Not damaged. And carrying microscopic details that didn't match any standard production record. The grading experts went silent. Phones were put down. Magnification tools came out. This penny showed signs of a rare transitional error, a combination of die characteristics and planchet anomalies that should never have existed together. The kind of minting accident that only happens when multiple systems fail at once, and the kind that collectors dream about but almost never see. Suddenly, high-end collectors wanted in. Not the casual hobbyists, the serious money. The kind of buyers who don't blink at spending $1 million if the coin is right. Auction houses began discreetly asking questions. Private offers were floated. And the value projections climbed, and climbed, and climbed. The majority of 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies are still out there, sitting in jars, drawers, piggy banks, and old coffee cans. Mixed in with worthless change. Spent every day without a second look. And only a tiny fraction of them carry the exact combination of traits that can turn 1 cent into a life-changing fortune. Collectors were shocked when a similar penny, graded at the very top condition levels, reportedly drew offers approaching $2.6 million in private negotiations. Not because it was gold. Not because it was ancient. But because it was perfect, and wrong in all the right ways. One dealer told the story of a roll of pennies purchased for face value. 50 cents. Inside that roll was a single 2002 no-mint mark penny so sharply struck and so clean it looked frozen in time. No scratches. No wear. Full luster blazing under the light. It took years for anyone to realize what it truly was. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Longtime collectors are pulling out old hoards they haven't touched in decades. And everyday people, just like you, are suddenly realizing that pocket change might not be so ordinary after all, each one confirming the same terrifying truth: this wasn't a one-off fluke. It was a microscopic window in U.S. mint production where errors, dyes, and materials crossed paths in a way that created something extraordinary, and then disappeared just as quickly. These coins must be nearly perfect. Not pretty good. Not almost new. We're talking razor-sharp Lincoln details, full hair lines, strong lettering, no circulation wear, and original mint luster that still dances when you tilt the coin under light. One tiny scratch. One cleaning attempt. One fingerprint etched into the surface, and the value collapses. The coin must be dated 2002 with no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. The surface should show unusual sharpness for that year. Pay close attention to Lincoln's portrait, especially the jawline, coat, and hair. Look for odd texture in the fields, subtle doubling in unexpected places, or metal flow lines that seem out of place. Weight matters. Sound matters. Even the way the light reflects matters. If you even think you might have one of these, stop. Put it aside. Protect it. And let professionals do the rest. Because somewhere right now, someone is unknowingly spending a penny that could have rewritten their entire future. New discoveries are still happening. Old collections are still being searched. And the market hunger for ultra-rare modern errors has never been stronger. That dusty jar on your shelf. That drawer you haven't opened in years. That handful of change in your car. This coin almost ended up in the trash. A simple Lincoln penny from 1981 with a tiny D mint mark, overlooked by everyone, until one day, a collector realized it could be worth up to $2.3 million. Imagine holding something so ordinary that it could transform your life in a single moment. Most people dismiss their pocket change without a second thought. But this tiny copper disc carries secrets hidden for decades, mistakes the U.S. Mint never intended anyone to notice. This is the story of how an everyday penny became one of the most sought-after treasures in the numismatic world. It all starts with a minting anomaly so subtle, you could miss it even if you stared at it for hours. The 1981 D penny wasn't meant to stand out. But in rare cases, the die used to strike these pennies created a slight doubling in the letters, a tiny shift that today makes collectors pay millions of dollars for perfection. And yet, for years, this coin circulated unnoticed. It passed through countless pockets, cash registers, and coin jars, blending in with ordinary pennies. Until one day, a single collector noticed a detail that changed everything. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This collector, scanning a jar of pennies with nothing but curiosity, realized the mint mark on one coin was unusually sharp, a feature so rare it immediately suggested a top-condition coin. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses were called. Suddenly, A penny worth less than a cent in face value became a $1 million miracle. Collectors worldwide scrambled. Forums lit up with speculation. Coin experts began comparing this 1981 penny to known examples in top condition. The truth? Fewer than a handful existed in flawless state, and each one sold for astronomical prices. This penny wasn't just valuable because it was rare. It carried a story of oversight, human error, and history itself. The doubling, the die crack, the crisp, mint mark, all of it combined to create a coin that was more than copper and zinc. It became a symbol of hidden wealth waiting for the patient, the curious, and the eagle-eyed. One man's pocket change had turned into an object worth over $1 million, a fact that still sends shockwaves through the collector community. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on every potential specimen, and private collectors guard theirs as if they were family heirlooms. But here's the most astonishing part. The difference between an ordinary 1981 penny and a $1 million version is often imperceptible to the untrained eye. A tiny flaw, a barely visible shift in the mint mark, or slight damage can reduce its value to almost nothing. This makes identification not just important, it's everything. First, look at the mint mark. A sharp, perfectly formed D is critical. Then, examine the coin's surface. Top condition pennies will have a lustrous sheen, free of scratches, dings, or discoloration. And finally, check for the telltale minting anomalies, slight doubling on the letters, minute die cracks, or unusual features in the design. These tiny details are why collectors pay millions of dollars for a single coin. Imagine the moment of discovery. 1 second, it's just another penny. The next, it's a ticket to wealth that can change a life. One man's curiosity turned into fortune. One jar of change became a treasure chest. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But don't be fooled. The window of opportunity is narrow. With so few in existence, time is running out to find one before it disappears into a private collection, potentially never to be seen again. Every passing day, ordinary coins are being scrutinized, auctioned, and locked away. Think about it. What if your change jar holds more than pennies? What if that loose coin at the bottom is the one? A sharp eye and a little knowledge could turn a simple discovery into life-altering wealth. And the truth is, collectors everywhere are searching with the same hope, and the stakes have never been higher. The story of the 1981 Lincoln penny is a reminder that sometimes, history hides in plain sight. That the mundane can become miraculous. That a coin can tell a story worth millions of dollars, if only someone notices. So inspect your pennies. Study them. Look for the flawless mint mark, the rare doubling, the tiny imperfections that define perfection. The difference between millions and nothing is in the details, and the next person who finds one could be you. This is more than a coin. It's history, fortune, and mystery wrapped in copper. It's the thrill of discovery and the promise of wealth. It's one of the rarest American treasures you can hold in your hand. And it might already be sitting in your drawer, waiting for the moment it finally reveals its true value. This exact penny could be the one, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally surfaced, it shocked the coin world, selling for nearly $2.5 million. One small, copper penny, so ordinary to the untrained eye, became the ultimate collector's obsession. The story begins in 1973. The U.S. Mint was quietly producing billions of pennies, each stamped with Lincoln's familiar profile. Yet, in a tiny, overlooked batch, something extraordinary happened. A production anomaly created a coin without a mint mark. To most people, it was just another penny. But to sharp-eyed collectors, this was a rare doorway into a multi-million-dollar secret. Collectors were stunned when this coin resurfaced in the early 2000s. One man had been sorting through old change, tossing coins into a jar without a second thought. Then, he noticed something unusual: the absence of a mint mark on the 1973 Lincoln penny. At first, he couldn't believe it. Could a single missing letter make such a difference? What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses described the moment as electrifying. Bidders were on edge, paddles raised, as the penny fetched prices they never imagined possible. dealers are rushing to get their hands on any coin resembling this rare specimen. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, transforming his life overnight. It's not just age or copper content. It's the story it tells, a tale of production mistakes, scarcity, and history itself. Only pennies from that exact batch, in top condition, are considered museum grade. A scratch, a blemish, or a poorly struck coin could reduce its value to mere dollars. This is why every detail matters, and most people miss it. In some ways, this coin is almost like a hidden map. Look closely at the obverse. Lincoln's profile must be crisp, the year 1973 perfectly struck. There must be no D or S mint mark. Even the tiniest imperfection can make the difference between millions and mere pocket change. But if you spot it in pristine condition, you are holding history, a once-in-a-lifetime find. Collectors who've uncovered these pennies often describe the moment as surreal. Imagine holding a coin that sat in circulation unnoticed for decades, only to realize it could be worth over $1 million. The emotion, the disbelief, the rush of realizing you're in possession of a fortune most people will never see, it's intoxicating. Stories of these discoveries are endless. One coin was found in a dusty drawer at a garage sale. Another was tucked in a stack of coins handed down through generations. Every discovery carries the same shock. This unassuming penny is worth far more than anyone imagined. But here's the secret. It's incredibly rare to find one in top condition. Not every 1973 penny is a gold mine. Many fakes and misidentified coins are circulating. Only experts know the exact nuances, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the depth of the strike, the precise placement of the year. Look too quickly, and you could miss the $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Collectors who study these coins have developed a sixth sense. They examine the shine, the weight, the slightest deviation in the design. One tiny detail, often overlooked by casual collectors, is enough to turn a regular penny into a treasure worth millions. This is why attention to detail isn't optional. It's everything. Imagine the tension as someone lifts a coin, examines it under a magnifying glass, and realizes what it truly is. The excitement builds with every second, knowing that just holding this coin can place you among the elite collectors of the world. The stakes are high, the rewards unimaginable. Every auction, every sale, every whispered conversation in collector circles revolves around this penny. It's more than a coin, it's history, luck, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity wrapped into one. And yet, it's still possible that this exact penny is sitting unnoticed in someone's drawer right now, waiting to be discovered. First, check for the missing mint mark. Next, examine the coin's condition. Scratches, bends, or tarnish can all drastically affect value. Then, compare it to authenticated specimens online or consult with a professional grader. These steps are not optional. They are essential. This is the coin that separates dreamers from $1 million holders, and when you finally hold it, you'll understand why collectors are obsessed. The thrill, the disbelief, the realization that something so small can carry so much value, it's unmatched. One coin, one moment, one incredible fortune hidden in plain sight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, it's valued at over $2.5 million. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, yet hiding a fortune that could change a lifetime. This isn't fiction, it's the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a piece of history so rare that collectors across the country are chasing it like a golden ticket. Most people glance at pennies every day, never suspecting that one of them could be worth more than a luxury car, or even a house. But this coin is different. It's the one that slipped through the cracks of history, surviving decades in wallets, drawers, and forgotten coin jars, until one sharp-eyed collector finally noticed the secret it held. In 1964, the U.S. Mint produced pennies under unusual circumstances. The nation was on the brink of monumental social change, and the Mint quietly struck a batch without the traditional mint mark, the tiny D or S, that identifies the Denver or San Francisco Mint. For decades, no one realized just how rare these pennies had become. Collectors were shocked when a single 1964 no-mint mark penny sold at auction for millions. Dealers who had spent their lives chasing rare coins couldn't believe their eyes. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle overnight. And yet, despite the media frenzy, these pennies remain elusive, hidden in plain sight, often mistaken for ordinary change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A renowned coin expert examined a batch of hundreds of pennies and discovered subtle anomalies in the strike-minute differences in the lettering, the curvature of Lincoln's profile, even tiny variations in the date's numerals. These are the details that separate a coin worth a few cents from one worth millions of dollars. Every collector who's ever seen this penny says the same thing: it's almost impossible to describe the thrill of holding it. The copper gleams with a rich, untouched patina, and the design, perfectly preserved, whispers stories of the past. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 1964 no-mint mark penny, knowing the next big sale could shatter records, because the key lies in the tiniest of details. Look closely at the mint mark, or the absence of one. Examine the lines of Lincoln's jacket. Inspect the date under magnification. A minor flaw, a forgotten engraving, or a slight misalignment can transform a coin from common to extraordinary. One collector's discovery remains legendary. He had been sorting through a jar of change he'd inherited from his grandfather. Among the hundreds of everyday pennies, one gleamed differently. He knew immediately it was special, but he couldn't yet grasp its full value. Weeks later, after professional verification, he learned the truth: that single coin was worth over $1 million. Just one small copper disc, hidden for decades, held the power to rewrite his financial life. This coin also carries stories that almost no one hears. Some were struck with slightly thicker copper, others with minuscule errors in the relief. Every variation adds to its mystique and value. Collectors search relentlessly, examining each coin under microscopes, chasing that elusive combination of perfect strike, flawless surfaces, and no mint mark. It's a treasure hunt unlike any other. You don't need to travel to an auction house or inherit a fortune to find one. Many of these pennies remain in circulation, waiting quietly in jars, wallets, and coin collections. It's why experts urge caution and patience. The difference between a common penny and $1 million find is microscopic, but the payoff is life-changing, and the suspense doesn't end there. Some of the rarest examples of the 1964 no-mint mark penny have been kept in pristine condition, untouched by human hands for decades. These coins have sold for astronomical sums, proving that perfection matters. The slightest wear can knock millions off the value. That's why collectors study every ridge, every curve, every reflection of light on the coin's surface. It must be a 1964 penny with no mint mark at all. Second, look at Lincoln's profile, the lines of his coat, the details of his face, and the crispness of the lettering are critical. Third, inspect the coin under a magnifying glass or loupe. Any minor misprint, error, or anomaly can elevate its value from a few cents to millions of dollars. And always compare with verified reference images. The market is full of near misses that can fool the untrained eye. Collectors describe the experience of finding this coin as nothing short of magical. The excitement, the disbelief, the heart-pounding realization that something so ordinary could be worth millions of dollars. It's a story told over and over in the quiet corners of coin clubs and auction houses. And every time a coin surfaces, it reignites the legend of the 1964 no-mint mark penny. This is a story of patience, of luck, and of history preserved in copper. It's a reminder that extraordinary things can hide in the most ordinary places: a drawer, a jar, a forgotten pocket. One coin, one moment, can rewrite the life of the person who discovers it. And in the case of the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, that rewrite could be worth over $2.5 million. The very coin that could change your life is sitting quietly, unseen, perhaps in your own collection or loose change. It's a tiny, ordinary disc of copper that could hold an extraordinary future. One glance, one careful inspection, one decision to check your change could lead to a discovery that makes history, and makes you a part of the legend. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, it's a treasure worth millions of dollars. Imagine holding a tiny copper disc, smaller than a cookie, yet hiding a fortune so vast it could change your life forever. Most people pass by pennies every day without a second thought, but this one? It's different. This is the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, and in top condition, it's valued at up to $2.60 million. How does an ordinary coin, minted decades ago, transform into a rare gem worth life-altering sums? The story begins in a quiet Philadelphia mint, where a mistake almost went unnoticed. A tiny detail in the minting process created a variation so rare, it only shows up in the sharpest, most pristine coins. Collectors call it a hidden anomaly, a whisper of history frozen in copper, waiting for someone to notice. One man discovered his fortune in the most unlikely place, a dusty old coin jar in his attic. He wasn't a collector, just a man cleaning up after years of forgotten change. When he examined a seemingly normal 1988 penny, he noticed a subtle clue: the absence of a mint mark. Most coins have it, some miss it, but very few survive in perfect, untouched condition. That tiny omission instantly made it a collector's holy grail. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses scrambled. Suddenly, a coin that once cost 1 cent became a talking point across the world. And the numbers are staggering. Top condition examples are fetching millions of dollars. Just a single slip of copper, sitting quietly in a man's hand, now commanding a price that most people spend their entire lives chasing. A seasoned collector bought one at a local auction for less than $50, only to sell it months later for over $1 million. The shocking truth? The coin's value isn't just in its rarity. It's in its condition, its history, and the tiny details most people overlook. Here's the secret most collectors don't share. The 1988 no-mint Mark penny's true worth comes from perfection. Look closely. Is the coin flawless, with sharp lettering, clean lines, and an unblemished surface? That's what separates $1 million coin from a common penny. Many coins from 1988 carry scratches, discoloration, or faint mint marks, and those imperfections slash their value instantly. One tiny detail is what makes this coin legendary: the absence of the mint mark. But beware, many coins appear to have no mint mark at first glance. Fakes and cleaned coins flood the market, luring collectors into thinking they've struck gold. It takes a trained eye to see the subtle clues that prove authenticity: a small ridge here, a slight spacing of the letters there, and the unaltered shine of untouched copper. Collectors were stunned when a private auction revealed 10 coins from 1988 in perfect condition. Each one sold for amounts that made national headlines. Dealers are now racing to source every untouched penny from that year, checking jars, drawers, and collections, knowing that just one coin in pristine condition can be worth more than a house. Imagine holding this coin. Imagine realizing that a small piece of copper in your hand could buy a car, fund a retirement, or even change generations of your family forever. It's almost unreal, yet this is the world of rare coins, where minute mistakes create life-altering fortunes. The journey of this coin isn't just about money. It's about history frozen in metal. It's about a moment in time, a slip of the minting press, and the randomness of survival. Many pennies from 1988 are gone, lost to circulation or tossed away. But a few, perfectly preserved, survived decades in drawers, jars, and wallets, waiting for the right person to notice. Here's how to know if you might have one. Hold the penny under bright light. Look for the absence of the mint mark. Check the surfaces for scratches, discoloration, or wear. Examine the edges. They should be clean and sharp. If the letters are crisp, the field's flawless, and there's no trace of minting errors, you may be holding a coin that could change your life. Collectors call it the 1-cent miracle. Dealers whisper about it at auctions. And every single example of this 1988 no-mint Mark penny carries a story of survival, rarity, and incredible value. One man's forgotten pocket change became a multi-million-dollar treasure. One small detail turned an everyday coin into a life-altering discovery. Every 1 to 2 minutes the tension builds. Auctions end. Headlines explode. Stories of unbelievable discoveries circulate among the most dedicated coin enthusiasts. And you could be next. Don't overlook your change. That coin jar, that forgotten drawer, that loose pocket change, one small penny could hold the fortune of a lifetime. And when you find it, when you hold it, when the weight of history and rarity sits in your palm, you'll understand why collectors are willing to pay millions of dollars for perfection. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One tiny copper coin. One miraculous omission. One opportunity that comes once in a lifetime. The question is, are you ready to look closely enough to see it? But it could have been worth nearly $2.7 million. Imagine tossing a piece of history aside without realizing it hides a fortune waiting to change your life. That's exactly what happened with the 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare that collectors were stunned when it resurfaced in pristine condition. For decades, these pennies were overlooked, mixed in with everyday pocket change. Most people didn't even notice anything unusual about them, yet there was a hidden secret in the minting process that made these coins extraordinarily valuable. In 1965, the United States was undergoing massive changes at the mint, experimenting with dyes and materials, and somehow, a tiny batch of Lincoln pennies escaped with a unique combination of errors that today could be worth millions. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln pennies immediately recognized the subtle differences. The no-mint mark on these coins means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, but unlike the thousands of normal pennies produced that year, this specific penny shows remarkable die variations. Tiny details, almost invisible to the untrained eye, separate a normal 1965 penny from one that could fetch over $2 million at auction. One story that shocked the entire coin community comes from a retired mail carrier who, after decades of saving coins, discovered one in a small jar of change at home. He had no idea the penny was special. When a dealer examined it, they realized it was flawless, top condition, almost uncirculated. Within weeks, offers poured in. $1 million deals, phone calls from collectors across the country, and the excitement of owning a piece of history no one could believe had been hiding in plain sight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. During the auction, this penny became the centerpiece of a bidding war. Dealers who had been chasing rare coins for years suddenly realized that an overlooked 1965 penny could command a price previously thought impossible for a modern coin. In the end, it sold for nearly $2.7 million. One man's pocket change became a life-changing miracle overnight. This isn't just about luck, it's about knowing what to look for. The most valuable 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies share a few key characteristics. First, the surface must be pristine. Any scratches or wear drastically reduce its value. Second, look for a subtle doubling on the date and the letters, Liberty and In God We Trust. This is where the minting error becomes your fortune. Many collectors miss it because it's almost microscopic, but those tiny details are worth millions. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and every week news stories emerge. Another collector in Ohio found one while cleaning out his father's old coin collection. What seemed like a common penny turned into a conversation starter that ended with a private sale for over $1 million. The excitement, the disbelief, the thrill of uncovering hidden treasure, it's exactly what drives coin enthusiasts and makes the 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny legendary. These coins are so rare because of a simple production oversight. The mint in Philadelphia had struck millions of pennies, yet only a small fraction escaped scrutiny with the die variations that make them worth a fortune. Many were melted down, some circulated without notice, and only a few survived in the hands of careful collectors. That's why, even today, the appearance of a perfect 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny sends shockwaves through the collector world. Imagine holding this coin in your hand, the copper gleaming, the letters crisp, the date perfectly defined. That feeling is why collectors chase pennies like this for years. One expert describes it as holding a tangible piece of history that also represents a multi-million-dollar opportunity. Every small detail, from the thickness of the letters to the shine on the edges, can make or break its value. And yet, the story doesn't end there. Auction houses report that the demand for this coin has skyrocketed, creating an unprecedented market frenzy. Every find is scrutinized, every offer weighed carefully. The emotional roller coaster of discovering such a penny, negotiating a deal, and finally realizing its full value is something few people ever experience. For the lucky few, it's not just a coin, it's a dream realized, a fortune uncovered, a moment frozen in history. First, check for the absence of a mint mark. No D or S indicates Philadelphia. Next, examine the date closely. In top condition, the numbers should be sharp and clear. Look for unusual die features, doubling of the letters, or subtle variations in the design. Even the tiniest flaw in the wrong place can reduce its value, so precision is everything. One man's jar of pennies became the key to unlocking over $2.7 million in potential wealth. Another person's pocket change might hold the exact same miracle. It's almost impossible to believe, yet entirely true. Every collector dreams of that moment, the discovery, the disbelief, and the sheer joy of realizing a lifetime fortune was hiding in plain sight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. All it takes is a careful eye, a little patience, and the thrill of uncovering history to transform ordinary change into an extraordinary treasure. But this wasn't just any penny. This tiny copper disc would later shock the coin world, selling for millions. Yes, millions of dollars. The story begins in Denver, at the U.S. Mint, where millions of pennies were produced every year. 1977 was supposed to be just another normal year for Lincoln pennies, but hidden in the presses that day was a subtle anomaly. A minting flaw so rare, so overlooked, that even seasoned collectors might dismiss it at first glance. But for those who know what to look for, it is nothing short of a miracle. Collectors first began whispering about the 1977 D penny in secret circles. Rumors spread of a coin that carried an unusual, almost imperceptible feature on its design, a small, doubled strike on the mint mark that made it one of the rarest modern Lincoln pennies in existence. Dealers were stunned. Auctions were set ablaze. One coin, in top condition, sold privately for a jaw-dropping sum that left the entire community speechless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired schoolteacher from Kansas discovered a handful of pennies in an old coin jar, the kind most people toss aside without thinking. Among the ordinary cents, he noticed one that seemed just a touch different. It glimmered, almost unnaturally, catching the sunlight like it was calling out to him. When he took it to a professional grading service, the results were beyond belief. A 1977 D Lincoln penny, in near-perfect mint condition, valued at $2.80 million. Dealers rushed. Collectors scrambled. Suddenly, a coin that had been treated as mere pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Imagine holding something in your hand that could completely change your life. That's what happened to this lucky collector. An ordinary day transformed into a life-altering event because he knew what to look for. It's historic. Every detail tells a story. The subtle doubling on the mint mark, the flawless edges, the crisp lines on Lincoln's bust, these are the signatures of a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Most people miss these tiny details entirely, which is why millions of unsuspecting coins remain undervalued, hidden in drawers, piggy banks, and pockets. One man's pocket change became a national sensation. Stories of other discoveries began to surface. A retiree in Ohio found one in a jar of pennies his father had collected decades ago. A collector in New York bought a roll at a local bank and unearthed a coin that, after authentication, sold for enough to fund multiple lifetime dreams. Collectors were shocked, and the market for these coins surged almost overnight. But here's the most astonishing part. The 1977 D penny is deceptively common-looking. To the untrained eye, it's just like any other Lincoln penny. That's why this story matters. This tiny coin has the power to separate the casual observer from the truly observant collector. It's not flashy, it doesn't scream, "Look at me!" But if you know the secret, you see the magic hiding in plain sight, and the secret is subtle. Look closely at the D mint mark. If you notice a doubled strike, a slight shadow, almost like the coin stamped twice in the tiniest fraction of a second, that is your clue. Examine the surfaces for flawless luster, the absence of scratches or wear, and a precise, sharp strike on Lincoln's profile. These are the characteristics that define a coin worth millions. Dealers are scouring collections, searching for the next find. Auctions are anticipating record-breaking sales. And while many people will pass by these pennies without a second thought, a select few will recognize the hidden fortune sitting under their noses. Imagine what it would feel like to stumble upon one today, an unassuming coin jar, a glint of copper catching your eye, and suddenly your world transforms. This isn't just a story about money, it's about discovery, patience, and the thrill of uncovering history. It's about holding a piece of the past that could redefine your future. Most will never spot the difference. But you can. You can learn to see the signs, to examine every coin with precision, to identify the rare 1977 D Lincoln penny before it disappears forever. This coin, small as it may be, carries a story, a fortune, and the potential to change someone's life overnight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But it could have sold for nearly $1 million, and today, some versions are worth up to $2.5 million. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so tiny, that nobody would give it a second glance, yet hidden in plain sight is a treasure worth more than most people's entire life savings. It all starts with the 1970 Lincoln penny. To the untrained eye, it's just copper, barely shiny, ordinary. But collectors know the secret. The ones without a mint mark hold a story that could change lives forever. During this year, a few coins slipped through the minting process almost by accident. Tiny details, nearly invisible, created a rarity that modern collectors are desperate to find. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He wasn't a collector. He wasn't hunting for coins. He just wanted to buy a cup of coffee. When he dropped the penny on the counter, the cashier barely noticed it. But decades later, that exact penny surfaced at an auction and sold for a jaw-dropping sum, millions of dollars. The room went silent. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were speechless. And the lucky finder couldn't believe his own eyes. Experts examined the penny under magnification and discovered an almost invisible anomaly. A missing mint mark, the D for Denver, had simply never been stamped. On the surface, it looked like any other penny. Yet this single tiny detail meant the difference between an ordinary coin and a piece worth a fortune. It was a whisper from history, frozen in copper, that the right collector could hear. The story of the 1970 no mint mark penny isn't just about rarity. It's about timing, mistake, and luck. The U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies that year, but only a fraction came out without the mark that identified their origin. Most ended up lost in circulation, tossed in jars, drawers, or forgotten in change jars. Only a handful survived in top condition, untouched, shining, almost glowing under the light. Those pennies are worth more than a house in some cities. Some of these pennies were discovered in the most ordinary of places. One collector found his in an old box of coins inherited from a grandparent. Another came across it while sorting through coins from a childhood piggy bank. The coin doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream, "I'm valuable!" You have to know exactly what to look for, or it will slip through your fingers forever. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of the mint mark is subtle. You have to hold the penny just right, angle it under the light, and notice the clean, smooth area where the mint mark should be. Any scratches, wear, or cleaning can ruin its value, even if it's the real deal. Dealers often warn, "If it looks too ordinary, that's exactly what it is, unless you look closer." Collectors were shocked when the 1970 no mint mark pennies started showing up at auctions. Prices skyrocketed. People who had tossed their coins into drawers suddenly realized they were sitting on life-changing fortune. And the stories keep coming. One auction reported a coin selling for over $2.5 million in near-perfect condition. A single penny, worth more than some people make in a lifetime. But the suspense doesn't end there. Even experts sometimes debate authenticity. Counterfeit coins, cleaned coins, or pennies with altered surfaces can fool the untrained eye. That's why patience and knowledge are key. Only by studying the coin's weight, the exact coloring of the copper, the sharpness of Lincoln's face, and the missing mint mark can you be certain you've found the real treasure. And now, here's the secret every collector is whispering about. This penny is more than a coin. It's a story, a moment frozen in history, a rare combination of chance and timing. It's the kind of discovery that keeps collectors awake at night, scanning through old change jars, flipping coins, and dreaming about what could be hiding in their own pockets. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Every auction is a battlefield. Bidders call in frantically. The phone lines light up. Emails fly back and forth. And yet, despite all the attention, many of the coins remain undiscovered, waiting quietly in someone's drawer, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Look closely at the obverse, the front of the penny. Lincoln's portrait should be sharp, the copper color vibrant. Check the area where the mint mark should be. Denver pennies have a tiny D just below the date. If it's missing, you might be holding one of the rarest pennies in history. Compare it to other pennies from the same year, and never clean it. Cleaning can destroy its market value. And most importantly, have it professionally graded if you suspect it's authentic. That grading could be the difference between a few $100s and millions. One man's ordinary coin became a life-changing miracle. One small detail transformed pocket change into $1 million treasure. And today, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every time you glance at your old coins, remember this: history hides in the smallest details. And for those willing to look closely, to seek the hidden story, the 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln penny offers a chance at something unimaginable, a moment when ordinary meets extraordinary, and a simple penny becomes priceless. This is the coin that turns dreams into reality. The coin that whispers through decades, waiting for the right eye to see its value. The coin that proves fortune can be found anywhere, even in your pocket. And in the end, it all comes down to one tiny, almost invisible detail: the missing mint mark. That's the secret that could make you part of the most exclusive club in coin collecting, a club where ordinary pennies suddenly become million-dollar miracles. So take a moment, look through your coins, hold them under the light, search for that missing mint mark. The story of the 1970 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is still being written. Your drawer could hold the next chapter. And if you find it, you won't just have a coin. You'll have a piece of history, and a fortune that could change your life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But if it had, one collector would have lost a fortune worth nearly $2.5 million. Imagine a tiny penny, the size of a thumbnail, holding a secret that could change a life forever. Most people never give a coin like this a second glance. They see copper, they see Lincoln, and they toss it into a jar or let it slip into a pocket. But what if that ordinary penny hiding in your change is actually a key to unimaginable wealth? The story begins in 1999. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies, a coin so common you could find it in every cash register across the country. Yet, in a small batch, a hidden anomaly occurred. A rare mistake went unnoticed for years. Only a handful of these pennies ever emerged from circulation in top condition, and they were destined to become legends among collectors. Dealers are still scrambling, paying millions for the few that exist. One man's spare change became $1 million miracle because he simply looked closer than everyone else. Collectors were shocked when the first 1999 no-mint mark penny surfaced at auction. The coin looked normal at first glance. Just a Lincoln cent. But experts noticed a subtle, almost invisible misstrike along the rim, a flaw that most eyes would pass over. That tiny imperfection instantly transformed an everyday penny into a rare treasure. The coin's condition was pristine. No scratches, no wear, perfect luster. And that's what makes it worth up to $2.6 million today. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread among the elite collector community, and suddenly, everyone wanted one. Auctions became frenzied. Dealers offered astronomical sums to anyone who could produce a penny in near-perfect condition. Ordinary people who had once thought of pennies as pocket change suddenly held gold in their hands, and sometimes they didn't even know it. This coin isn't just rare, it's almost a miracle of survival. Think about it: decades of pocket jostling, cash register tumbling, the relentless grind of circulation, and yet, a few of these pennies survived in flawless condition. They were hidden, forgotten, waiting for the moment someone with sharp eyes would spot them. Imagine opening a drawer and finding one today, a coin minted over 25 years ago, untouched, still gleaming. Collectors who have found these pennies describe a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. One man, a retired schoolteacher, thought he had nothing more than a common penny. He took it to a local coin dealer out of curiosity, and within minutes, he was staring at a certificate declaring his penny could fetch millions. That single discovery changed his life overnight. The coin world buzzed with excitement and envy. The details that make this penny extraordinary are subtle but unmistakable. Look closely at the mint mark area. For this coin, there is no mint mark, which is extremely unusual for 1999 pennies. Examine the rim and the Lincoln portrait. The mid-strike leaves a tiny, almost imperceptible anomaly along the edge that most people miss. The coin's color is a deep, vibrant copper, a sign it hasn't been handled or circulated excessively. This is what separates a common penny from a potential million-dollar treasure. But here's the twist: most collectors will tell you, even the slightest imperfection or cleaning can destroy the coin's value. One wrong polish, one careless handling, and the fortune vanishes. That's why these pennies are handled with gloves, stored in airtight cases, and insured like priceless artwork. The stakes are high, and the thrill of discovery is even higher. Imagine being at an auction where a 1999 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is up for bid. The room is silent except for the sound of hearts racing. Collectors lean forward, eyes darting from the coin to each other, calculating the risks. One glance, and they know, this tiny piece of metal could make someone a millionaire. Bidding skyrockets. Tension builds. And then, in an instant, the coin is gone, sold to someone who recognized its secret before anyone else. Every 1 to 2 minutes in the collector world, there's a new twist. A coin that was thought lost in a drawer suddenly appears at a flea market. A retiree discovers one in his old coin album. A dusty penny in a jar of change turns out to be one of the most sought-after coins in modern U.S. history. Each story is more unbelievable than the last, yet completely true. Start with the basics. The date, 1999. Look for the absence of a mint mark. Inspect the coin under strong light for the tiny misstrike along the rim. Compare it to images of verified examples online or in collector guides. Never attempt to clean it. Keep it in a protective case. And most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels extraordinary, it probably is. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies. Auction houses are preparing for record-breaking sales. And yet, ordinary people still stumble upon them, completely unaware of the fortune sitting in their hands. One penny, one tiny piece of history, can turn decades of ordinary life into unimaginable wealth. This coin is more than copper and history. It's a story of chance, patience, and the thrill of discovery. It reminds us that treasure isn't always buried in the ground. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eye to notice it. And that right eye could be yours. Every line, every detail, every overlooked penny in your drawer could be hiding the same miracle. And when you finally hold that 1999 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in top condition, when you realize its true value, you'll understand why collectors say there's nothing else like it in the world. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But this isn't just any penny. This is a 1990 Lincoln penny. And what I'm about to show you could change everything you thought you knew about coins in your pocket. This tiny piece of copper, almost dismissed by most, is now commanding jaw-dropping attention. Collectors have paid up to $2.7 million for a single example in top condition. Yes, $1 million. And one lucky person's casual discovery almost ended up in the trash. It all started quietly in a small town in the Midwest. One collector was sorting through decades of pocket change when he noticed something unusual. The D mint mark on the 1990 penny looked different, not dramatically, but subtle enough that only an experienced eye would catch it. Most people would have ignored it. But this collector held on. Little did he know, that moment was about to become legendary in the coin world. This coin hides secrets that few ever see. Tiny errors in the minting process created a variation so rare that it's considered one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever struck. Dealers were shocked when it surfaced at a private auction. The room went silent, the gavel fell, and the coin sold for an amount that seemed impossible for a single penny, millions of dollars. One man's casual curiosity became a fortune almost overnight, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, every collector, dealer, and coin enthusiast was on high alert. The 1990 Lincoln penny became a treasure everyone wanted, and the race to find one turned ordinary wallets into potential gold mines. Stories emerged of coins discovered under couch cushions, tucked into old jars, and even hiding in children's piggy banks. Every coin had the potential to be the life-changing piece no one expected. What makes this penny worth so much isn't just age. It's the combination of rarity, condition, and that elusive minting anomaly. If you look closely, you might notice minute doubling on the date, or the mint mark, or slight misalignments in the rim. These tiny details are why it's worth millions, and most people miss them entirely. Imagine the thrill of holding something so ordinary that hides a fortune in plain sight. Collectors were shocked when one pristine example surfaced on the East Coast. It had been stored carefully in a collector's album for decades, untouched, and perfectly preserved. Experts describe it as flawless, a coin that seemed almost impossible to find in such condition. When it sold, the winning bidder nearly fainted at the price, over $2.7 million for what most would call pocket change. $1 million. And the story didn't end there. There's a cautionary tale here too. Not all 1990 pennies are created equal. Many coins are circulated, worn, or have subtle defects that drastically reduce their value. A penny that looks ordinary could actually be an imposter, the wrong die, the wrong mint mark, a minor scratch. This makes learning how to identify the authentic top-condition coin absolutely crucial. The D should be clear, perfectly struck, and in the right position. Examine the date closely. Some rare varieties have doubling that's faint but unmistakable under magnification. Check the coin's surface. A smooth, flawless patina is what experts look for. And most importantly, avoid assuming value based on age alone. Condition is king. A circulated 1990 penny won't command millions, but the perfect specimen could. Imagine the possibilities. That coin you've had sitting in a drawer for years, it could be the one that turns your life upside down. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it's entirely possible yours could too. Dealers are rushing to track these coins down. Auctions are fierce, stories of accidental discoveries are spreading like wildfire, and the 1990 Lincoln penny is now a legend in the making. Collectors who find this coin report an almost surreal thrill, a mix of disbelief and elation. They handle it carefully, knowing that every tiny detail adds to its incredible value. One slight scratch could reduce its worth dramatically. But in top condition, with perfect minting and clarity, this penny becomes more than money. It becomes a piece of history, a symbol of luck, timing, and the incredible hidden treasures all around us. This isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about realizing that even the most ordinary things, the coins you drop on the counter, the pennies you overlook, could be hiding unimaginable value. Every glance, every careful inspection, could be the moment that changes everything. So, if you have a 1990 Lincoln penny tucked away, don't just dismiss it. Examine it closely. Look for that perfect mint mark, the flawless surface, the subtle details that tell the story of its rarity. Every second you hesitate could be a lost opportunity. Because the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But what if I told you that this very coin, minted in 1982, could be hiding a fortune of over $2 million? Yes, you heard that right. Over $2 million. And most people wouldn't even think twice before tossing it into a jar with the rest of their loose change. But instead, it became a story that stunned collectors across the nation. The 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just copper, it's a doorway into a rare, almost forgotten minting anomaly that few have ever held in their hands. And for those who recognize its secrets, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Back in 1982, the U.S. Mint was in the middle of a historic change. That year, pennies were being struck in both copper and zinc versions, a detail that seems small, but it created the perfect storm for a coin so rare, it would one day sell for unimaginable sums. Some of these pennies were minted with no mint mark at all, a subtle detail that's almost impossible to spot unless you know exactly what you're looking for. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins hit the market. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on them. Stories began circulating of ordinary people finding one in a jar of coins, and suddenly, their life changed overnight. One man in the Midwest pulled a coin out of his couch cushions, not realizing he held a piece of history worth $1 million. By the time the auction closed, the final hammer revealed something astonishing, a sale price that seemed absurd for a humble penny, yet perfectly justified by its rarity. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts began scrutinizing every 1982 penny in circulation. Minute details that once went unnoticed, the thickness of the coin, the exact hue of its copper surface, even the tiniest imperfections around Lincoln's profile, suddenly became the difference between ordinary cents and million-dollar treasures. And every collector who had overlooked the no-mint mark variety realized they were missing out on something extraordinary. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of a mint mark on a 1982 penny might seem trivial, almost like a printing error too small to care about. But in the numismatic universe, it's a signal of extreme rarity, a whisper from history that says, "This coin is not like the others." Dealers and auction houses have seen bidding wars ignite over these pennies, with the tension and excitement almost tangible. Imagine holding one in your hand. The weight feels normal, the copper gleams softly under the light, and yet if you look closely, if you examine it with the right knowledge, this coin could be the key to wealth you never dreamed possible. Collectors' eyes widen when they spot the subtle, smooth edges, the perfect alignment, and the undeniable proof of a no-mint mark origin. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, all because he recognized what so many others overlooked. Stories like this aren't rare, they happen again and again. People stumble upon these coins in their drawers, in jars, even in the bottom of their wallets. And when they bring them to dealers, the reactions are priceless: disbelief, awe, and an almost frantic scramble to verify authenticity. Because in the world of coin collecting, these small, copper discs are more than money. They're history, mystery, and unimaginable value all wrapped into a single object that fits in the palm of your hand. Here's what you need to know if you're hunting for your own 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. First, always check the mint mark area under Lincoln's bust. If there's no D for Denver or S for San Francisco, you've found a candidate. Next, examine the surface carefully. Look for coins struck in brilliant copper and verify their weight. Copper pennies are slightly heavier than their zinc counterparts. And beware of common mistakes. Many zinc pennies can appear copper in low light and counterfeit. No mint mark coins do exist. Only a trained eye, or a professional grading service, can confirm the true value. The excitement doesn't stop there. Auction records show these pennies fetching between $1 and nearly $3 million, depending on condition. Top-tier, flawless examples can command staggering sums. And the best part? This coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, completely unnoticed, just waiting for someone to recognize its hidden power. Collectors everywhere are dreaming of that moment, the moment they realize their ordinary-looking change could be a life-altering treasure. Imagine the thrill, the disbelief, the rush of holding $1 million coin in your hand, knowing that what you once thought was just spare change is actually a gateway to unimaginable wealth. So, the next time you sort through coins, don't be hasty. Take your time. Examine each penny. Look for that subtle absence of a mint mark, check the copper glow, and consider its weight. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. And remember, in the world of rare coins, patience and knowledge aren't just virtues. They're the keys to finding life-changing treasures hiding in plain sight. One coin, one moment of recognition, can transform your entire future. That's the magic of the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, small, unassuming, and yet capable of changing everything. But one coin, a simple 1980 Lincoln penny, almost ended up in the trash, and yet, in perfect condition, it recently stunned collectors by being worth over $2 million. Yes, you heard that right, $1,000,000.it started like any ordinary coin, minted in Philadelphia, standard copper, the face of Lincoln smiling as it had for decades. But hidden in plain sight was a tiny detail that turned this ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. A subtle error in the minting process, invisible to most eyes, created a coin so rare that collectors immediately recognized it as a miracle. The copper gleamed, the strike was flawless, and the absence of a mint mark made it nearly impossible to find. Collectors were shocked when the first high-grade 1980 no-mint mark penny hit the auction block. Dealers had been chasing rare Lincoln pennies for years, but this coin was different. It wasn't just valuable, it was legendary. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle overnight, turning a simple habit of checking your spare change into a story of unimaginable fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The bidding war escalated to numbers no one thought possible for a coin from the 1980s. People who thought they understood coin collecting realized they had underestimated the rarity of a flawless, no-mint mark Lincoln penny. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it, dismissing it as just another penny. The story of this coin is also a story of survival. Most 1980 pennies are scattered across circulation, worn and forgotten. But those struck perfectly, without a mint mark, are the ones that collectors fight for. Experts explain that only a handful exist in top condition, each one a time capsule from a forgotten moment in history. And when these coins appear, the reaction is electric. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them, auction houses tremble, and one lucky discovery can change a life forever. A coin no bigger than your thumbnail, yet its value is life-changing. One slip of the hand could mean passing over a fortune. And yet, many Americans walk past these treasures every day, unaware that the exact coin that could make them millionaires is sitting in a drawer, under a pile of old bills and spare change. Some of these pennies have been found in the most ordinary places: forgotten jars, old coin collections, even loose change on countertops. One collector found a near-perfect specimen in a box of coins inherited from his grandfather. He almost overlooked it, but something caught his eye: the missing mint mark. That small absence, invisible to the casual observer, transformed a common penny into a six-figure miracle. Collectors describe the thrill as almost indescribable. Heart racing, hands trembling, as the coin is weighed, examined, and finally authenticated. For a moment, it's not just a penny, it's proof that fortune favors the attentive, the patient, and the curious. Every flaw avoided, every detail preserved, becomes a secret doorway into unimaginable wealth. Experts warn that many coins thought to be no mint mark are actually common pennies with faint, worn markings. Identifying the genuine 1980 no mint mark penny requires a trained eye. Look for sharp, crisp details on Lincoln's bust, the absence of a small letter below the date, and perfectly preserved copper luster. Miss these, and you could mistake a potential million-dollar treasure for ordinary change. Auction stories continue to grow more astonishing. One coin sold for over $1 million, another approached $2.1 million in pristine condition. Each sale rewrites what collectors believe is possible. It's more than money, it's proof that history can hide in the smallest objects, and that fortune can reveal itself in the most unlikely forms. But this isn't just about money. It's about discovery, suspense, and the thrill of uncovering secrets that have lain dormant for decades. Imagine the stories this coin could tell if it could speak: of mint workers in Philadelphia, of coins falling into pockets, of years spent waiting quietly until the right eye found it. That quiet patience is why collectors are drawn to the 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny like moths to a flame. Start by inspecting your coins carefully. Look for that missing mint mark. Study the copper's luster, the precision of Lincoln's features. Compare with reference images, seek expert opinions, and avoid assumptions. Most importantly, don't discard old pennies, even if they seem mundane. Fortune favors the persistent. And remember, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. One small, overlooked coin could change everything, turning ordinary life into an extraordinary story of discovery, excitement, and fortune. But this isn't just any penny. This is the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so perfectly struck, that in top condition, it can be worth up to $2.2 million. Yes, you heard that right, $1 million. And what makes it even more unbelievable is how close it came to being completely overlooked. Collectors were shocked when this coin first surfaced. Most pennies from 1981 were minted in massive quantities, sitting in rolls, waiting to be spent. But a small batch escaped the mint with a subtle twist, a minting anomaly that only the sharpest eyes could detect. One small missing mark, one tiny irregularity, transformed an ordinary copper disc into a treasure worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. It all started with a man who wasn't even a collector. He found a handful of pennies while cleaning out his late grandfather's belongings. One coin caught his eye. Something about it seemed different. He showed it to a local dealer, expecting maybe a few dollars at most. The dealer froze, eyes wide, and whispered a number so large it made the man's head spin. Over $1 million. One man's pocket change had just become $1 million miracle. But this penny story doesn't stop there. Experts have traced its origins to a tiny production error at the U.S. Mint in 1981. Somehow, during the stamping process, a batch of pennies was created without the mint mark. To the untrained eye, they looked normal. But under careful inspection, they revealed subtle differences in lettering, depth, and finish, the hallmarks of rarity. Dealers are now racing to get their hands on every known example, and auction houses are seeing bidding wars that defy imagination. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A coin that had been languishing in a forgotten jar sold for a record-breaking sum at auction, sparking a frenzy among collectors. Everyone wanted the secret, and that secret was this: the absence of the mint mark, combined with pristine condition, makes this coin almost mythical. Most people overlook it because it looks just like a penny. But the tiny details tell a story worth millions. This isn't just about value. It's about the thrill of discovery. Imagine picking up a coin from your pocket, holding it up to the light, and realizing that you could be holding a piece of history, a piece that could transform your life overnight. One small copper coin, minted in 1981, now carries the weight of $1 million legacy. But here's the part most people miss. Not every 1981 no-mint mark penny is a fortune. The condition has to be nearly perfect. Look for coins with crisp details, no scratches, and a copper tone that hasn't dulled. The letters in Liberty should be sharp, the date clearly defined, and the absence of the mint mark unmistakable. One smudge, one dent, and the value drops dramatically. This is why collectors obsess over every tiny line, every tiny imperfection. One man's meticulous eye could turn a coin from a simple keepsake into a life-changing discovery. Dealers are already sharing stories of buyers who spotted the coin in a jar of loose change, thinking it was just another penny. One phone call later, and they were stunned to learn it was worth millions. The excitement is contagious. Every new find adds another chapter to the mystery of the 1981 no-mint mark penny, and the story keeps evolving. The rarity of this coin is not just in the numbers, it's in the story it carries. Each penny is a time capsule from 1981, a snapshot of history, struck with care and accident alike. When you hold it, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding decades of secrets, of human hands, of tiny mistakes that turned into priceless treasures. And collectors everywhere are desperate to uncover these secrets before someone else does. Start with the basics. Check the mint mark. No D, no S, that's the first clue. Examine the coin under bright light. Look at the depth of the lettering, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, and the smoothness of the fields. Compare it with regular 1981 pennies. Every detail matters. Remember, this coin's power lies in perfection. One scratch can cost millions. And here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night: new examples are still being discovered. People are finding them in old coin rolls, in forgotten jars, even in pocket change passed down through generations. Every discovery sends shockwaves through the coin world. The thrill is real, the stakes are high, and the next record-breaking sale could come from someone just like you. You're sorting through coins, a habit you've ignored for years. Your hand brushes against a penny that looks ordinary. But the light catches it just right. You see the detail, you notice the absence of the mint mark, and suddenly, your heart races. This isn't just a penny. This is a chance. A chance at a fortune, a chance at a story that will be told for decades. Collectors are now willing to pay extraordinary sums for these coins. The competition is fierce, and the clock is ticking. What was once dismissed as mere change is now a symbol of luck, precision, and history colliding. The value is no longer hypothetical. It is real. It is tangible. And it is sitting in drawers, jars, and wallets across the country. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The right coin in the right condition has been known to fetch over $2.2 million at auction. One man's discovery, one careful eye, one simple observation can turn ordinary pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. If you want to identify your coin, pay attention to three things. The mint mark must be absent, the date must be clear and unaltered, and the coin must be in top condition. Any flaws, scratches, or discoloration reduce the value dramatically. Use a magnifying glass, study the details, and compare it with verified examples. The thrill is in the hunt, and the reward is monumental. This is more than a coin. It is proof that fortune can be hiding in the most ordinary places. That history has left clues for those who know where to look. And that every person, no matter who they are, could hold $1 million miracle in their hands without even knowing it. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, in absolute top condition, collectors whisper numbers as high as $2.7 million when its name comes up. Picture this for a moment. A single penny. Brown. Ordinary. The kind you wouldn't even bend down to pick up if it fell on the sidewalk. And yet, this exact coin, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, has become one of the most controversial, mysterious, and emotionally charged coins in modern U.S. collecting history. In 1977, millions of pennies rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint. No mint mark. Nothing special at first glance. America was distracted, inflation was high, gas lines were long, and nobody was thinking about pennies. Most were spent. Lost. Forgotten. Swept into couch cushions and junk drawers. Collectors were shocked when the first pristine example surfaced decades later. It wasn't flashy. It didn't sparkle. But under magnification, experts froze. Something was wrong, or rather, something was incredibly right. The coin showed signs of a rare minting anomaly, microscopic details that shouldn't have aligned the way they did. Subtle doubling where no doubling was expected. Unusual strike pressure. Razor-sharp details in Lincoln's portrait that seemed almost too perfect for a year known for mass production. Most 1977 pennies were abused by circulation. Weak strikes. Dull surfaces. Bag marks everywhere. But this one? It looked frozen in time, as if it had been sealed away the moment it was born. One collector reportedly found his example while sorting through his late father's old coffee can of change. No gloves. No expectations. Just curiosity. The absence of a mint mark isn't the miracle by itself. Philadelphia struck billions of no-mint mark pennies. The miracle is the condition combined with the strike characteristics. Perfect copper color. No oxidation. Full original luster. No smoothing on Lincoln's cheek or jawline. Every hair strand visible. Every letter sharp. Collectors were shocked because this level of preservation borders on impossible. Pennies are the most mistreated coins in America. Finding one from 1977 in absolute top condition is like finding a snowflake that never melted. Auction houses began quietly tracking sales. Private deals. Behind closed doors. Prices rising. Rumors spreading. Was it hype? Or was this penny really a once-in-a-generation survivor? When a top-graded example crossed the auction block, the room went still. Bidding jumped fast. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. Then higher. Much higher. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, while millions of others unknowingly spent theirs at gas stations and grocery stores. More examples began surfacing. Not many. Just enough to confirm it wasn't a fluke, but rare enough to keep prices climbing. And every single one that reached elite condition sent shockwaves through the market. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin because they know something the public doesn't. 1977 pennies are aging. Copper corrodes. Damage is permanent. Every year, fewer and fewer survive in the condition that matters. Start with the date. 1977. No mint mark under the date. Lincoln facing right. Look at Lincoln's face. Invaluable examples show sharp cheekbones, no flatness, nowhere on the jaw or beard area. The ears should be fully defined, not mushy, not smooth. They should be crisp, squared, and strong. Weak lettering means weak value. Tilt the coin under light. You're looking for original copper luster, that soft glow that looks alive, not dull or brown. And most importantly, check the surfaces. No scratches. No spots. No discoloration. Even tiny damage can destroy 6 or 7 figures instantly. Cleaning the coin. Touching it with bare fingers. Wiping it with cloth. Every one of those moves can turn a potential $1 million into pocket change. If you think you've found one, stop. Protect it. Get it professionally evaluated. Because guessing is how people lose money. But in top condition, examples like this have been whispered about at prices reaching $1 million levels. And the story behind it still gives seasoned collectors chills. Picture this for a moment. A simple brown penny, dated 1980, no mint mark under Lincoln's date. The kind of coin you've held 1,000 times. The kind you'd never think twice about. One man nearly spent it on a cup of coffee, until something felt off. That split-second hesitation changed everything, and what followed stunned the entire coin world. At first glance, the 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny looks ordinary. Billions were struck in Philadelphia that year, flooding circulation. But buried among those billions were a handful of coins born during a chaotic transition at the U.S. Mint, a year when metal compositions, pressure settings, and planchet supplies were quietly colliding behind the scenes. Most people never noticed. Most coins slipped through unnoticed. But a few came out different. And those differences turned pocket change into legends. Collectors were shocked when the first serious rumors began circulating. Pennies from 1980 showing unusual weight, strange surface texture, and razor-sharp details that didn't match standard production. Some appeared struck on the wrong planchet. Others showed microscopic doubling so clean it looked intentional. Dealers dismissed them at first. Then one example surfaced in jaw-dropping condition, flawless surfaces, blazing luster, not a single fingerprint or circulation mark. When it hit private hands, the price paid was never officially published, but insiders quietly repeated the same phrase, $1 million territory. As grading standards tightened and advanced scanning technology improved, a few elite collectors began re-examining old 1980 pennies they'd ignored for decades. And that's when the pattern emerged. The most valuable examples weren't just errors, they were perfect storms. Wrong metal composition combined with an early dye state, struck with abnormal pressure, then preserved in near-miraculous condition. Coins like that don't happen on purpose. They happen once in a lifetime. One collector told the story of finding his while sorting a childhood jar left behind by his father. Thousands of pennies. Hours of boredom. Then suddenly, one coin that looked sharper than the rest. He almost put it back. Almost. Instead, he waited. The number made his hands shake. When professionals confirmed it, the room went silent. Dealers were shocked. Phone calls started flying. And suddenly, that quiet little penny wasn't just copper, it was destiny. The year 1980 sits at a critical crossroads in U.S. coinage history. The mint was experimenting, adjusting, and pushing production at massive scale. That chaos created rare survivors. In top condition, these no-mint mark pennies can display mirror-like fields, unusually squared rims, and a strike so strong it feels almost sculpted. When combined with the correct weight anomaly and metal signature, the value skyrockets beyond logic. But here's the twist. Most of these coins were spent. Worn down. Lost forever. That's why top condition examples cause absolute panic when they surface. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors dream about them. Auction houses salivate at the possibility of one crossing their block. A pristine 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, certified at the highest level, quietly appeared in a private sale after years locked away. When word leaked, experts couldn't believe it existed. Bidding escalated fast. Offers stacked up. The final number wasn't publicly confirmed, but the phrase echoed again among insiders, worth $1 million money in today's market. More people started checking. Old rolls. Inherited collections. Forgotten drawers. And every once in a while, someone found something close, but not close enough. Because this is where most people get it wrong. They look only at the date. Or the missing mint mark. That's not enough. 99.9% of 1980 no-mint mark pennies are worth 1 cent. The treasure lives in the details no one tells you about. First, check the weight. A normal 1980 penny weighs about 3.11 grams. Anything significantly lighter or heavier deserves attention. Next, study the color and sound. Some rare examples ring differently when gently tapped. Then look at Lincoln's portrait. On the most valuable coins, the strike is unusually bold, with sharp jawlines and crisp hair detail even under magnification. Flip it over. The Lincoln memorials should show strong lines, clean steps, and no mushiness. Now the biggest mistake people make, cleaning the coin. The second you clean it, the dream is over. Collectors were shocked to see $1 million potential destroyed by a toothbrush. Leave it exactly as found. If you think you have something special, professional grading is the only next step. And finally, condition is everything. Circulation kills value. The coins that reach life-changing prices look untouched by time, like they slipped straight from the mint into hiding. That's why so many experts say the next record-breaking example hasn't been found yet, because it's still sitting quietly somewhere, unnoticed. A penny ignored for decades. A coin passed through countless hands. A tiny piece of history hiding in plain sight. And today, in the right condition, it could stand shoulder to shoulder with the most valuable modern coins ever sold. But in top condition, it shocked collectors with a market value whispered as high as $2.1 million. Picture this for a moment. It's 1993. Gas is cheap, phones still have cords, and nobody is thinking twice about a single penny. Millions of Lincoln cents are pouring out of the U.S. Mint, slipping quietly into wallets, cash registers, couch cushions. And hidden among them was a coin that no one was supposed to notice. For years, this penny lived unnoticed. It paid for coffee. It rattled around in jars. It sat ignored in drawers while its true story stayed buried. Collectors passed it by because they were trained to look for older dates, flashy errors, dramatic designs. This one didn't scream for attention. It whispered. A collector examining a batch of modern pennies under magnification noticed something that felt wrong. The strike looked unusually sharp. The surfaces were nearly flawless. And the weight, the texture, the microscopic details didn't match what most 1993 pennies should look like. This wasn't wear. This was precision. What he had found wasn't just a penny in good shape. It was a penny in elite, almost impossible condition. The kind of condition that shouldn't exist for a coin that old unless it survived untouched, unspent, and perfectly preserved. Dealers started talking quietly. Auction houses leaned in. Because in the world of coin collecting, condition isn't everything, but sometimes it's the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors were shocked when early valuations came back. Not thousands. Not hundreds of thousands. Numbers that made people sit down. Because when a modern Lincoln cent like this grades at the absolute top of the scale, combined with subtle mint anomalies and flawless surfaces, it becomes something entirely different. As more experts examined high-grade 1993 no-mint mark pennies, patterns began to emerge. A tiny number showed unusual die characteristics. Microscopic doubling in the lettering. Slight anomalies in Lincoln's profile. Surface textures that hinted at a special strike or an exceptionally early die state. These weren't dramatic errors you could spot from across the room. These were secrets hiding in plain sight. One auction story sent shockwaves through collector circles. A pristine 1993 penny, graded at the very top tier, ignited a bidding war that nobody expected. Phones rang nonstop. Online bids climbed fast. When the hammer finally dropped, the price rewrote what people thought was possible for a modern penny. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on examples like this because the supply is brutally small. Millions were minted, yes. But coins survive. Conditions don't. Almost every 1993 penny was spent, scratched, dropped, damaged. Finding one that escaped that fate is like finding a needle in a mountain of copper. As news spread, people started checking their pennies. Old rolls from the bank. Childhood collections. Inherited jars. And every so often, a whisper would surface. Another near-perfect example. Another shockingly sharp strike. Another penny that shouldn't exist. The absence of a mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia. That alone isn't rare. But Philadelphia strikes from 1993 with exceptional strike quality, flawless surfaces, and specific die characteristics are incredibly rare at the highest grades. Add in zero wear, blazing original luster, and microscopic perfection, and suddenly you're not talking about pocket change anymore. High-end collectors don't just buy coins. They buy stories. They buy rarity. They buy the impossible. A 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in top condition represents all three. A modern coin that defies modern expectations. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. And ordinary people started dreaming. Because you don't need to be a millionaire collector to find one. The most valuable examples weren't pulled from vaults. They were pulled from everyday places. A forgotten roll. A dusty drawer. A box no one had opened in decades. Experts began warning people about common mistakes. Cleaning the coin destroys value instantly. Touching it improperly leaves oils that ruin grading potential. Spending it without checking could mean throwing away $1 million in a heartbeat. You start with the date. 1993. No mint mark under Lincoln's date. Then you look at condition. And this is where most coins fail. Anywhere on Lincoln's cheek, jawline, or coat is a red flag. Any dullness in the fields lowers value dramatically. You want blazing shine, sharp lettering, and crisp edges that look almost unreal. Next, you look closer. Much closer. Under magnification, check the lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for subtle doubling, unusual thickness, or signs of an early die strike. Examine Lincoln's profile for razor-sharp detail. The reverse should show strong, full steps on the memorial with no flattening. Weight matters. Texture matters. Even the sound it makes when gently set down can hint at originality. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still watching auctions. And somewhere right now, a 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is sitting unnoticed, waiting for the right eyes to see it for what it truly is. But today, it can fetch over $2 million. Imagine holding something that seems ordinary, something most people would toss without a second thought, only to discover it's one of the rarest Lincoln pennies ever minted. Collectors across the country are still reeling from the stories of this coin, and now, it's time you understand why. The 1970-60 mint mark Lincoln penny doesn't just have history, it has secrets. Buried in the U.S. Mint's records are tales of tiny production anomalies, imperfections almost invisible to the untrained eye. These minting quirks were mistakes, but in the world of coin collecting, mistakes are pure gold. A single flaw on the surface, a slight misstrike, can turn a humble penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And that's exactly what happened here. Most pennies from 1976 are everyday coins, passed from hand to hand, ignored in wallets and jars. But the D mint mark version carries a hidden story. The D stands for Denver, a mint known for producing large batches of coins. But in rare instances, something extraordinary happened. One batch of pennies was struck with unmatched precision, yet an imperceptible error crept in, creating a coin so unique that collectors were willing to pay millions for it. One man, a retired teacher in Ohio, found this coin in a dusty drawer. He had no idea of its value. To him, it was just a coin, part of a lifetime of loose change. But when he took it to a local coin dealer, the reaction was immediate. The dealer froze, eyes wide, whispering the word, $1,000,000. Within weeks, that single penny became a headline, a story shared by collectors across the country. It was no longer just a coin, it was a $1,000,000 miracle hiding in plain sight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auctions that typically saw modest bids were suddenly catapulted into frenzy. Collectors were shocked when this penny sold for prices that seemed unreal. Deals were made behind closed doors, phone lines blazed with offers, and a quiet coin became the hottest ticket in the collector's market. Every expert agreed, this coin was not just rare, it was legendary. So what makes the 1970-60 mint mark Lincoln penny worth millions? It's all in the details. Look closely at the mint mark itself. Subtle doubling, a slight misalignment, a faint ridge in the wrong place. These tiny anomalies are invisible to casual observers but scream value to collectors. Every curve, every line, every shadow on the penny tells a story of a moment frozen in time, of a mistake turned miracle. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on every 1970-60 penny they can find. Every coin jar is being emptied, every dusty drawer is being checked, and every coin dealer is on high alert. But this is not just about luck, it's about knowledge. Knowing what to look for, understanding the signs of authenticity, and recognizing the subtle differences between an everyday penny and a $1,000,000 treasure. Even seasoned collectors make mistakes. Many dismiss pennies from 1976 because they look ordinary, because the wear and tear hides the hidden perfection beneath. But the truth is, one tiny flaw can make the difference between a few cents and $2 million. That imperfection is the key, the secret code that transforms a simple penny into a legend. And here's what to look for if you think you might hold one of these rare coins. Focus on the mint mark. Denver's D should be crisp yet show faint doubling, a telltale sign of the minting anomaly. Inspect the rim for faint misstrikes, check the details of Lincoln's profile, and never underestimate a slight variance in color or texture. Even small differences can signal a coin worth more than a lifetime of work. One collector's pocket change became a $1,000,000 story overnight. Another's coin jar turned into a vault of hidden fortune. And this is why experts warn, check every penny, examine every detail, because history has a way of hiding in the smallest places. That faded copper disc in your drawer might be more than it seems. But the suspense doesn't end here. Each discovery fuels the hunt for the next. The 1970-60 Lincoln penny is more than a coin, it's a symbol of hope, a promise that sometimes, the smallest things can change your life forever. Every auction, every appraisal, every whispered rumor keeps the collectors on edge. And every coin still out there holds the potential to make headlines. Imagine holding it in your hand, the cool copper, the faint D on the mint mark, the weight of history, the knowledge that it could be worth millions. That's the power of this coin. One moment, it's just another piece of change. The next, it's a story that collectors will tell for decades. And the best part? This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin that looks completely ordinary, a 1982 Lincoln penny with a small D mint mark. At first glance, it seems like any other penny you've seen 1,000 times. But what if I told you that this exact penny could be worth over $2 million? Yes, $2 million. It's a secret buried in plain sight, and most people toss it into jars, wallets, or loose change without realizing its life-changing potential. This coin almost disappeared forever. One man, cleaning out his old dresser drawer, nearly threw it in the trash. But something made him pause. A faint detail caught his eye. He had no idea he was about to stumble upon a rare numismatic miracle worth over $1 million. Collectors who study the tiniest minting variations call it a holy grail penny. The story begins in 1982, a year when the U.S. Mint made a dramatic, almost invisible change. That year, pennies were being struck in both copper and zinc versions. Most people don't know this, but a tiny number of these coins were mistakenly minted with slight errors that now make them priceless. Dealers are scrambling every day to find them. And when they do, auctions explode. One coin, identical to the one in your hand right now, sold for nearly $2 million to a collector who had been searching for decades. But what makes the 1982 D penny so astonishing isn't just the mistake, it's the story of its survival. Many coins were circulated, bent, or lost. Only a handful remain in top condition, shining as if they just left the mint. Every scratch-free coin becomes a treasure chest, a potential ticket to a millionaire's lifestyle. You can almost feel the tension as collectors compete, knowing each day could be their last chance to find one. This coin doesn't scream wealth. It hides its value in tiny details most people overlook. The mint mark, the slight doubling, even the subtle shine of its original metal, all these factors determine if this penny is worth hundreds of thousands or millions. Imagine holding what looks like a simple penny, and suddenly realizing it could buy a house, a car, or pay off a lifetime of debt. Collectors were shocked when one of these pennies appeared at an auction in 2023. The bidding started modestly, but within minutes, the price skyrocketed past $1 million. Dealers who had spent decades hunting for this coin were left stunned, and the new owner walked away with a piece of history that could have been sitting in someone's pocket for decades. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the auction, a small discovery came to light. A second feature on the coin, almost invisible to the untrained eye, increased its value even further. It was a minting anomaly so subtle that it could easily be mistaken for wear or dirt. One tiny detail made the difference between a $10 coin and a $2.3 million treasure. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. When examining your 1982 D Lincoln penny, look for a crisp mint mark, sharp edges on Lincoln's bust, and the specific copper zinc composition. If your coin has these features, it might be the real deal. Mistakes abound in circulation coins. One worn penny could look perfect but actually lose nearly $1 million in potential value. Imagine the thrill of showing this coin to a dealer. The excitement, the disbelief, the rapid calculations of its worth. That moment is life-changing. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And now, that same opportunity could be sitting in your wallet or drawer, waiting for the moment you finally notice it. But let's take a step back. How can you be sure you're holding the right coin? The 1982 D penny comes in a few variations, but the ones worth millions have unmistakable traits. The D mint mark must be perfectly centered, there should be no signs of post-mint alteration, and the metal composition must match the rare zinc-copper mixture. Even a small scratch or cleaning can reduce its value by hundreds of thousands, which is why patience and careful observation are key. Dealers are constantly warning collectors, one wrong move can destroy the value of a lifetime. Yet the potential reward is astronomical. That's why every coin expert in the country is watching for these pennies, sharing stories of past auctions where the tension was so high that bidders were on the edge of their seats, hearts pounding, knowing they might lose millions in seconds. One woman found a penny in her old coin jar while packing for a move. She didn't recognize it. It looked just like any other penny she had tossed into the jar over the years. But a quick inspection revealed the mint mark, the correct metal shine, and a near-perfect condition. She held a fortune in her hand, her disbelief turning to tears as she realized that a simple coin from her childhood had made her life forever different. This is the magic of the 1982 D Lincoln penny. It transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary stories. Each coin carries decades of hidden history, silent witnesses to the hands it passed through. And collectors know that finding one is like discovering a needle in a haystack, except that needle is worth millions. Inspect every penny from 1982 with a D mint mark. Look at the color, the metal composition, the sharpness of the details. Avoid coins that are worn, cleaned, or damaged. This is not just a hunt for change, this is a hunt for a miracle. One coin could be the turning point of your life. Remember, every auction tells a story of surprise, greed, and jubilation. Collectors who never imagined holding $1 million coin are now the envy of the coin world. The value isn't just in the metal, it's in history, rarity, and that once-in-a-lifetime chance. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But if it had, someone would have walked away from a fortune worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a seemingly ordinary penny from 1969, just another coin in your pocket, your change jar, or your old drawer. Yet, this is no ordinary penny. This is a Lincoln penny hiding a secret so valuable, the rarest collectors have spent decades hunting it down. And the market price? It can reach $2.4 million in top condition. It all starts with a tiny mistake, barely visible to the untrained eye. Back in 1969, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies. Most were ordinary, stamped, and sent into circulation like clockwork. But in the chaos of mass production, a few slipped through with a critical flaw, a missing mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just a clean, blank spot, the hallmark of one of the most coveted coins in modern history. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies appeared at auction. A man had bought a handful of old coins from a garage sale for a few cents, only to realize one had a smooth, flawless surface where a mint mark should have been. He didn't know it at first, he just thought it was worn down. But professional graders immediately recognized it as a 1969 no mint mark penny, in near perfect condition. That single coin fetched a staggering sum, making headlines and changing the lives of anyone who thought pennies were worthless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers and collectors scoured every collection, every pocket change jar, every old roll of pennies. The hunt became almost feverish. This coin is not just rare because of age or condition, it's rare because it carries a secret no one intended. Every year, new discoveries appear, but the top condition coins are almost impossibly scarce. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and stories of late-night auctions where bidding went into the millions are now legendary. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile faces you. Check the area just beneath the date. Is there a smooth, unbroken space where a mint mark should be? That's the defining feature. But beware, many coins appear similar due to polishing or wear. Only a certified grading by a trusted service can confirm its authenticity. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on coins in top condition because they know the story, the history, and the value hidden in that tiny blank spot. The 1969 no mint mark penny isn't just a coin. It's a mystery, a piece of history, a financial miracle waiting to be discovered. Imagine sifting through your old coins, never expecting to find a treasure that could turn your life upside down. This coin's value doesn't come from copper alone, it comes from rarity, from the story etched into every curve of its design, and from the shock of discovering something so extraordinary hiding in plain sight. One collector's tale is particularly astonishing. He had spent decades collecting pennies, flipping through albums, sorting by date and mint mark, and almost gave up the search. Then, in an old box labeled miscellaneous change, he noticed something different. The date was 1969, the coin gleamed as if untouched, and there was no mint mark. He had discovered one of the rarest pennies in modern U.S. history. That single coin now has a market value that exceeds $2 million. He didn't just find a coin, he found a story, a secret, and a fortune. Collectors are obsessed with condition. A 1969 penny in average condition might be worth a few $100s to the right buyer. But the top condition coins, with sharp detail and flawless surfaces, command millions. Imagine holding it, feeling the smooth metal under your fingers, knowing it has survived decades without a scratch, a blemish, or even a touch of circulation. This is what separates an ordinary coin from one worth a life-changing fortune. But the mystery doesn't end there. Some coins have subtle anomalies that increase their value even more. Slight doubling of letters, faint die errors, or perfectly preserved edges can transform a coin from rare to legendary. Experts recommend examining every coin under magnification, with light at different angles. The difference between a coin worth a few $100s and one worth millions can be as small as a tiny flicker on the edge of Lincoln's jacket or a near-invisible detail under the 9 of the date. Dealers have told stories of frantic phone calls, private auctions, and collectors flying across the country after a rumored discovery. The excitement is tangible. This coin isn't just currency. It's a symbol of hidden opportunity, of history preserved in copper, and of the thrill of discovery. One man's forgotten change jar can become another man's ticket to unimaginable wealth. 1969. Next, inspect the mint mark area. A no mint mark penny has a completely blank space under the date. Look for sharp, unblemished features on Lincoln's bust and the surrounding lettering. Avoid coins that appear worn or altered, as counterfeit or polished coins can mimic the missing mint mark. Authenticity is everything. Submit your coin to a certified grading service for verification. This step could make the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing million-dollar discovery. Stories of this penny appear in auction catalogs, collector forums, and private sales. Each sale seems more dramatic than the last. One coin, sold quietly at a private auction, fetched over $2 million. The new owner reportedly cried when holding it for the first time, realizing that a tiny piece of history had transformed their life forever. Even if you're not a professional collector, the lesson is clear: treasure can be hiding anywhere. Old coins, forgotten drawers, boxes of change, all could contain a 1969 no mint mark Lincoln penny in top condition. Every time you pick up a coin, remember that some of the most valuable discoveries have been made by ordinary people just like you. This is more than a coin. It's a story of luck, history, and hidden fortune. A chance to own something that combines rarity, artistry, and an almost impossible market value. It's a reminder that treasures aren't always buried in chests or locked in vaults. Sometimes, they're lying quietly in a desk drawer, waiting for the right eyes to notice. And now, here's the most important part: if you have pennies from 1969, examine them. Look under the date. Examine the surface, the edges, and the condition. Compare with verified images of authentic coins. Even if it's the last thing you expected to be valuable, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.